Hello, my name is John Modaff, and in this program we will look at 4 different studio lighting styles in video production. But first, I'll try to explain the light, lighting, and major lighting sources and equipment in the studio. Light is part of our everyday world. When we look around us, we simply use light. Light helps us to see, examine, and understand the things around us. It has strong effects on our feelings and emotions. Perhaps light is the main ingredient for visibility. The eye responds to light. Every object is seen with light, either the light emitted by the object or light that is reflected from it. In our day-to-day activities, we need light to do our jobs, whether we are accountants, mechanics, students, television producers. At the same time, we need light to entertain ourselves, as when reading a book or going on a picnic. We most often treat light as an accepted part of our lives and never give it much thought until we don't have enough or have too much for what we want to. At the same time, there would be no video without light. We use the sun as our main source in our daily outdoor activities or work, but when we're indoors or in the studio, things change. We start to use artificial light, especially indoors. We need artificial light for video production. Light in the studio is a principal design tool for the videographer. It's the essence of the video. According to scientists, light is a part of the electromagnetic spectrum that normally simulates sight. But for the visual artists, which is the focus of this program, we would define light in emotional terms. Terms like warm, hard, romantic, or cool. At the same time, color is closely associated with light. Our perception of color changes as the light changes. Color exists in light. Actually, we do not live in a world of colored objects. The surfaces of objects reflect back a particular portion of the light that is hitting them. Thus, a banana is yellow because it reflects yellow light, not because the fruit itself is yellow. Especially in the studio, we must be careful about light and lighting. The camera cannot automatically adjust itself for the light as our eyes do. So when we are in the studio, we must always think about light, not only if there is enough, but what the source is, the direction it is coming from, and even what color it is. And we must think about the total lighting pattern will affect the images we are recording. The lighting director or the videographer can manipulate light to increase the drama of ordinary things, or to illuminate chosen objects while obscuring others. The lighting director can use light to affect the color relationships of objects in the picture, and this changes perception of colors and emotional responses to them. We must remember the mood of the picture is due in part to the quality of the light in the picture. Quality of light is basically determined by the character and size of the light source, its intensity, direction, and color. Primarily in the studio, the source of light is important because different sources will make pictures appear differently. Artificial studio light is different from daylight. In this case, our primary objective, artificial lighting, is simple. Control the direction and the quality of the light that falls on our object. For example, if the pictures are recorded with incandescent light, they will be different from those recorded with fluorescent tubes, and all light sources produce different kinds of light, which in turn will produce different kinds of pictures. Again, the most important thing we have to remember is artificial lighting in the studio is a completely controlled environment, and it is shaped by the limits of our capabilities. Direction of light, form, crest, and color. They all determine studio lighting styles. We have to be able to use them in harmony. There are only two types of lighting sources in the studio. The first is spot, which is a specular light source. Spotlights are primarily designed to throw a directional, defined beam that illuminates a specific area. They cause dense, harsh shadows. The most common studio lights are the Fresnel spotlight and ellipsoidal spotlight. There are also a variety of portable spotlights which differ greatly in size and beam spread. Most studio lights have glass lenses that help to collect the light rays and focus them into a distinct beam. The spread of the beam can be adjusted from a spot of focus position to a flood position by moving the lamp reflector assembly toward or away from the lenses. Ellipsoidal spotlights are used for special effects. They produce extremely sharp, intense beams that can be given rectangular or triangular shapes by movable metal shutters. We can focus the ellipsoidal spotlight by moving the lens away from or closer to the fixed bulb reflector assembly. In Morehead State University's Ginger studios, we are able to use Fresnel spotlights, but the number is limited to 13. 13 spotlights may not be enough for large area shows, but one will see a lot more spotlights in KET studios in Lexington. The reason is KET has to be ready for complex, big-scale productions. The second lighting source is flood, which is generally considered a diffuse light source. Floodlight is a broad, generally soft light. It produces a great amount of non-directional, diffuse light that causes very soft shadows. The purpose of this light is to soften and thereby control the shadows that are created by the angle of the focused spotlight. Floodlights don't have lenses because their purpose is not to sharp beam. The more common studio floods are the broad, the soft light, and the scoop. The broad produce a great amount of highly diffused light. We use the broad to illuminate large areas. News sets and interview areas are often lighted by a series of broads. Soft lights are similar to broads, except that the large opening is covered with a diffusing material that scatters the light so much that it renders the shadows virtually invisible. Soft light is often used where flat lighting is important, such as product displays in commercials, instructional shows, or on models. The scoop is a relatively small and flex floodlight. It has a large, round, scoop-shaped reflector. Scoops are often used as fill light for dense shadow areas to make the shadows more transparent. In addition to soft light sources, we can use fluorescent light or cyc light. Fluorescent tubes today are highly efficient and produce extremely diffused light. Cyc light is used to illuminate cycloramas and large areas of scenery. Cyc lights are usually positioned side by side on the studio floor and shine up onto a background. In Morehead State University's Ginger studio, we have only 15 soft light sources, and this number is not enough for the average size of television studios. In KET studios, one would be able to use a large variety of soft light sources. In addition to two main lighting sources, we use other lighting materials to control studio lighting. We must remember that the real art of lighting is in the control of lighting sources. Barn doors, scrims, and some other lighting equipment are used to control lighting. Barn doors offer a method of restricting the beam size from luminaries. They are normally fitted spotlights. Barn doors consist of a frame of 4 metal flaps. Tilting the flaps up or down will restrict the light beam. To diffuse the light beam more, we can attach a scrim or diffuser to the front of the scoop light. A scrim is a heat-resistant spun glass material. We also use flags for blocking the light on specific areas of the performer or set. With their stands and extension arms, they provide an important final control over illumination. Reflectors help us to maintain the natural look. They are directionless and shadowless. With the use of a reflector, bounce the light into a selected area. Color filters can also be helpful for us to change the mood in the scene and the color of the light. Besides working with the lighting sources and equipment, we must use a light meter to measure incident and reflected light. A light meter is a tool that allows us to accurately measure the intensity of light. The intensity of television lighting is measured in two different ways. We can find out how much incident light is falling upon a subject by the meter very near to the camera subject and pointing it directly toward the light source. The second method of measuring intensity is achieved by the reflected light. It indicates how much light is reflected from the surface areas of subjects into the camera lens. We basically point the meter directly at the subject from the perspective of the camera. Color temperature is another important part in television lighting. All light sources have a certain color quality, which may be called color temperature. The various types of artificial light do not contain all colors. In general, they contain less blue and more red than daylight. We use the Kelvin scale to measure it. Sunlight is approximately 5,600 Kelvin degrees, and studio light only 3,200 Kelvin degrees. One must also balance the television camera to adjust to color differences in the television studio. The reason we need to white balance the camera in the studio is that all light sources produce light of the same whiteness. The style of lighting design must grow out of the style of the production. The lighting director lights not just objects, but an event, a performance, or a show. It's not sufficient for the lighting to provide visibility, modeling, color, and focus. It must also make a stylistic statement consistent with the entire production. Television lighting in the studio does have styles just as surely as any other aspect of the production, and lighting styles can be influenced by a number of different factors: genre, purpose of the director, conventional systems of lighting, and the style of other aspects of the production. It's common to prescribe different lighting styles depending on whether the production is dance, drama, talk show, or news. Each different production depends on a different lighting style. At the same time, each lighting style depends on basic fundamental television lighting, which we call three-point lighting. As we know, we basically use key, fill, and backlight in three-point lighting. Key and backlight are hard. Fill light is soft. We basically use different variations of these lights in different lighting styles. Now we can look at our 4 different studio lighting styles in video productions. Silhouette lighting relies entirely upon subject outline, completely obliterating the color, tone, texture, and surface modeling of the subject. We meet silhouettes in decorative applications and dramatic effects. The lighting director controls 2 different areas in the studio: brightly illuminated background and the darkened foreground. The foreground is again recognized only by its outline, details of which act to enrich the picture. Hard backlight plays the most important role in the foreground-background contrast. The lighting director angles the backlight lower and closer to the subject. Barn doors have a specific role in silhouette lighting. We must be very careful about the direction of the light in silhouette lighting. Barn doors direct the light only to the back side of the subject. If we don't control the light direction, we can't have real silhouette lighting. We lose the dramatic effect. Especially in commercial television, silhouette lighting is used for interviews, confessions, and some one-man performance shows. The purpose is to establish the mood for emotional involvement. The second lighting style we will look at is cameo lighting. Cameo lighting is simply the opposite of silhouette lighting. It's a way of achieving the focus of attention to the object. A good cameo light requires a complete lack of any light hitting the background. Front lighting must be carefully controlled to make certain that no spill is reflected onto the set behind the talent. Cameo lighting also requires the slight lowering of the fill light on the subject so as to emphasize the directional quality of the lighting. Lighting directors depend on fill light. As in still lighting, we control foreground, background, contrast. We use diffusers on soft light sources. A lighting director may also prefer to use hard light from the same angle of the fill light, but he or she must soften the light with diffusers and barn doors. Barn doors help us to direct softened hard light on our talent. In practice, most of the commercial television use cameo lighting in one-man shows, stand-up comedies, and in some quiz shows. Rembrandt lighting originally came from Rembrandt's paintings. It emphasized dramatic effects. Rembrandt lighting is an art of shadowing. We try to create the variation in light and shade. Smooth transitions between light and shade areas are the primary point in Rembrandt lighting. Rembrandt lighting is generally used to illuminate the most important person in the dramatic scene. We try to emphasize this person with a soft side light using fill light just from the left or right side of the person. Low intensity colors like muddy browns and dark reds in Rembrandt lighting help us to strengthen the point of emphasis. Because of the intense shadows and dark areas, using one fill light from the left or right side of the person should be enough. We can use Rembrandt lighting in emotionally highly dramatic productions. It helps us to give the feeling of heaviness, tragedy, and mystery. In commercial television, Noteon lighting is usually known as flat lighting. It is basically shadowless lighting. Noteon lighting is part of Japanese sumi-e art. Sumi-e art is made on white paper as pure and clean as fresh fallen snow. Noteon lighting is even distribution of illumination on a set or on a paper for the purpose of avoiding highlights and shadows. We talk about the interaction between positive and negative space in Noteon lighting. Positive space is an even distribution of illumination on a set. The negative space is the object on that set. In television productions, with television's multiple camera formats and continuous end productions, lighting directors have found it difficult to adhere to the concept of classic three-point lighting. For example, in the talk show format, the host or hostess moves to people in the audience, and the cameras must shoot from many angles. The solution to this situation is to create an overall wash of illumination throughout the entire set. Many soft lights are used from all possible camera angles. We can use a circle of soft lights from the top of the set. The result is what generally is called flat lighting. The faces take on a more flat look as differentiated from the shaped effect of shadows created by Rembrandt lighting. In Noteon lighting, shadows are eliminated as much as possible with the help of soft light built over the set. Its emphasis is upon presenting a flat, two-dimensional effect in which pattern surface detail and color predominate. Noteon lighting is mostly used for fashion shows, talk shows, newscasts, sitcoms, and large area shows.
As a result, we can say that making a teleshow is more than just rolling a tape in the camera. It's a creative art. What it looks like, what it says, and even the viewer's reaction are all up to us. At the same time, good, effective style lighting is absolutely essential to any show. The best approach to style lighting is to keep it simple, and I wish you good luck in your studies.